There's been hundreds and hundreds of studies done on retirees. And unfortunately, sometimes these studies contradict one another. But one of the things all these reports have in common is that most retirees' number one fear is not relating to dying itself. In fact, it's the opposite of that. It's related to outliving their retirement savings, right? Running out of money in their lifetime. And while death is, our journey on death is an unknown, unknowable, right? We all share that destination. We all share that journey. But until that time comes from us, none of us knows for sure what's going to happen. But you know, the nice thing about your retirement savings is that is, in my opinion, a knowable unknown. So how do we make this a knowable unknown so it's not so scary for you? And I want to share, there's a tool that's called a Monte Carlo simulation. And essentially it simulates thousands of lifetimes, giving your situation, giving your savings, giving how your money is currently invested and will be invested in retirement. And it runs a bunch of simulations based on actual market returns historically, randomizes that, and gives you some probabilities of success. Now, it sounds technical, and the tool itself is technical. It uses statistical models in order to do this. There are free online Monte Carlo simulations, but I don't advise that you use it, right? It's like a master carpenter or a master plumber, right? I can go to Home Depot and I can buy the tools, but that doesn't make me a journeyman carpenter. And it's the same thing here. It's the wisdom that comes with using the tool. But I want you to know that there's a tool called the Monte Carlo simulation that will provide a lot of clarity for you. And I want to encourage you to think about hiring a professional, whether that's a fee-only financial advisor, an accountant, or somebody else. Again, I don't know your situation. This isn't financial advice, but know that you can get a plan. You can get clarity on how long your money is going to last in various scenarios. And then you come up with a plan. You come up with a budget and say, okay, as long as we stay within this budget, I should be okay. I should not outlive my money. Now, none of us know when we're going to die. Most of us don't, at least. And so there still are some unknown unknowables, but you can get a lot of clarity. You can't get certainty, but you can get a lot of clarity. I apologize for the noise in the background. There's a group of people taking a soak in this cold water here. I've done that myself in the past. So, you know, and so what do? You come up with a plan, you come up with a budget, and then you look at your big expenses, right? And for most of us, our big expenses are going to be our housing. It's going to be our food, our groceries, taking care of our house, and then our car expenses. And then there are the things that are necessities, right? Paying your rent, paying your mortgage, buying food, utilities. And then there's wants. And so you categorize things. And I would encourage you to start looking at your major expenses first, where you can move the needle. And for most Americans, their housing expense is pretty close to about 25% of their income. They're spending about 25-30% on their housing. Unfortunately, that number continues to creep up. Housing is getting more and more expensive. And then household supplies, groceries, utilities, things like that are pretty closely tied for Americans with our car payments. The average American spends about 15% of their pay on their car maintenance, their car payment, insurance, gasoline, things like that. So you start and you look at those major expenses and you say, are there ways that we can budget that and make sure that our money has a horizon that's matched up pretty well with how long we think we're going to live, right? In an ideal world, you want to plan for, you know, if your mortality table says that you're going to live into your 40s, for 40 more years, I'm sorry, I should have said, you know, you want to plan for a little bit longer than that in case you live past that. And if you're 65 years old, for most of us, the mortality tables are going to say, you know, if we're assuming we're healthy, is somewhere between 82 and 86. So, you know, we've got 20 to 30 years that we need to be planning on. And if you're thinking of retiring sooner, you have even more time that you have to plan on. And then you want to put a buffer in. And it's one of the things that makes retiring so much harder today than maybe it was a generation ago, right? Because the good news is we're healthier, we're living longer, we're staying more active, but it also means that we've got more years in retirement that we need to plan for. So running out of money is a retiree's number one fear. The second fear is actually healthcare expenses. And there's a good reason for that to be a fear for Americans. And that is a study by Fidelity says the average 65-year-old couple is going to experience about $300,000 worth of medical expenses, out-of-pocket medical expenses for insurance and co-pays, prescription medication co-pays, things like that. The average couple is going to experience about $300,000 of medical expenses in retirement. So this is for a couple that's 65 and older. So the next thing is healthcare insurance, making sure that you have capital set aside for that. Again, that's why you work with a planner. How do you save for that? How do you make sure that you have enough money to plan for that as well? And then also, you know, unfortunately, again, there is no certainty, right? And so we have to be adaptable. We may not have, as we look at all the numbers, we may say, gee, this is a lot tighter than what I wish it was. But, you know, we're adaptable, and we do what we have. We do what we have to do in order to make ends meet. And while part of that might be continuing to work maybe a little bit longer, part of that might be spending a little bit less. You know, frankly, a big thing that's going to move the needle is how you're invested. And, you know, oftentimes retirees, there's a temptation to get very conservative very quickly. But as I said earlier, you know, if you're healthy, you probably have 20, 30, maybe even more years that you need to plan for. That's a long-term time horizon. Now, you want to make sure, and this isn't financial advice, I don't know your specific situation, so I can't give you financial advice, but you do want to make sure that you have some exposure to equities to let your money continue to work for you, continue to grow at a rate higher than inflation, because that's going to move the needle for you a lot more than maybe a part-time job where you're working 10 hours a week and maybe not making that much money in that job. And there again is why it makes sense to work with a professional, somebody that has guided hundreds of people in the past, hopefully thousands of people in the past, through their retirement. They know how to help people make the right decision for them on their retirement. So hopefully this has been helpful. If it has been helpful, I encourage you to watch this video here where I talk about the average income of retirees in retirement. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.